Afternoon. Welcome to the afternoon work session for Board of Cowlitz County Commissioners. We have a couple agenda items, although I don't see our first agenda item on here yet today. But they're on their way. Called and they are on their way. Mike out there? Sorry, which Mike? Boss. He called for an executive session. Could be. Could be.
So we're gonna go to the dinner tomorrow evening, right?
Right.
You're gonna be there, right? You're gonna bring some of your clam chowder?
That was good. Well, I don't. Is it not? It's not coming through, is it? Yesterday it was an echo.
Hello, hello, not coming through.
3. Now, there we go. Okay.
How about 9? Hello.
Oh. I think somebody just comes in at night and plays with them.
You know, I was asked by someone about singing and stuttering.
Yeah.
Did you get the link? I sent it to
No.
Kelly to send you the link on the video of Megan Washington.
Oh, I haven't seen it.
I beg your pardon? Oh, okay. So, and as you explained, I'm tone deaf, so it wouldn't help to sing. However, if I yell loud enough, I think I can overcome this.
You overcome?
So,
How about when we're way off topic here, but how about when you speak in French?
oh, it's worse than every
Oh,
other
okay.
language because, well, it's worse in Spanish because there are too many plosives. Like,
Okay.
I can say train in English more easily than I can say TREN in Spanish.
I gotcha. Okay. All right. Well, I see we have a mediation center here today to kind of tell us a little bit what they do. We can use this desk up here if you'd like. And on that mic, there'll be a button. You want to see the green lit up.
If they wish, they could use both.
Certainly, if they wish, they could do both.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll leave one for Commissioner Weber too, in case he shows up. Thank you. Gina told us yesterday she's been communicating with you a little bit. Good, good. Why don't I just have you introduce yourselves and
You need a number? What's the number of the mic on there?
There we go. Okay, the green light's on.
What's the number on the
Oh,
mic?
10.
you're on?
There we go.
Okay.
Okay, my name is Laura Height and I'm the assistant.
You gotta come closer.
My name is Laura Height and I'm the assistant director at the Community Mediation Center. And this is Janice Gentinen and she is the executive director at the Community Mediation Center.
Hi, how are you guys doing?
Good.
I've met with you all before, so
Mhm.
this is great. We wanted to come to talk to you guys about possibly a continuation of the program. I shouldn't say evil, the ERP program, which is the eviction resolution program. And we know that at the end of June 30th, it ends. It's done. There's nothing else to take on the additional staff, or not staff, but tenants and landlords who are struggling with funding. And so we are making a proposal of having volunteer mediation for the landlords and tenants who would like to try it. And so I'm going to let Laura talk a little bit about it, and we'll go from there. You good?
Sure, yeah. So just for the record, for anyone who doesn't know, the Community Mediation Center is a nonprofit organization. We've been operating in Lewis County and Cowlitz County for 30 years this year. And we do a lot of voluntary mediation for families, parenting plans, divorces, things like that. Folks that are kind of in between resolving things on their own and going to court. There's a big gray area in between of dispute resolution, and that's where the Mediation Center comes in. Most of our funding comes from state or federal funds, and then also donations and very nominal fees that we do collect from clients. Although because of state regulation, we offer mediation at no cost for those who cannot afford it. We never want cost to be a reason why people don't seek dispute resolution. So it is available on a sliding scale. 2 years ago, coming up 2 years ago, the Mediation Center joined with 20 other dispute resolution centers across Washington state to help facilitate the eviction resolution prevention program, which was kind of a three-legged stool between voluntary legal aid, Cowlitz County legal aid here in Cowlitz County, and the CAP, who administrated the funds for people who had unpaid rent and were not in a place to bring themselves current and needed some assistance to get there and continue living in their home or apartment. We kind of were in between there, so we were able to get both landlords and tenants to sit down at the table or via Zoom nowadays and talk about whatever issues they had. A lot of the issues that we found were just miscommunications. It wasn't necessarily about funds or living conditions. It was pretty easy for tenants to avoid their landlords. And when we got them sitting down in the same room, the communication was really a lot easier for them. So with all of that being said, the eviction resolution program as it stands now is ending June 30th. So what that means is that there will no longer be a requirement for landlords and tenants to participate in this program. We don't know exactly what that means in terms of landlord-tenant law long-term, but what we can tell you is that we feel strongly that there is still going to be a significant need in Cowlitz County, among other counties in the state, where landlords and tenants will still need dispute resolution. Just because the program is ending in earnest doesn't mean that the need goes away completely. So as you may know, the funding that has been set aside to help landlords and tenants resolve this unpaid rent that was being administered through CAP has been used up, which is great because it got to a lot of people that needed it. But that means that without that safety net, we still have a lot of people who are kind of at their wits' end when it comes to what do I do now? I don't want to be evicted. I'm not really sure how to talk to my landlord. I don't have the funds maybe to hire an attorney. So we have some people who are kind of caught between a rock and a hard place, and that is where we would like to come in. We would like to provide mediation services to landlords and tenants at no cost to them. We found that cost is a big barrier for these two parties coming to the table. We're already talking about money, and when you're asking people to put out more money, it can really be a deterrent to people wanting to sit down and communicate. So in your packet there is it's just a one-page sheet that talks about what funds we feel would be necessary to facilitate that. So in your packet, page 2, it's the statement of work for Cowlitz County. This is our estimated budget based on the 2 years of work that we have been doing that have been funded through the ERP program. We do feel as though there's going to be a significant drop in cases. However, the cases that we do see, we are going to see more time invested per case because these are going to be folks that are coming voluntarily and who want to get resolution. So if you look at that, the budget that we have put out there is for 1 calendar year, which goes from July of 2023 through June of 2024. We are predicting that 1 full-time person or 2 part-time people, so 40 hours a week at $25 an hour. The funding is there for $52,000 annually. We have supplies in there at $13.20. We have rent. We currently are working out of the Bowers Building in downtown Longview, which has been a wonderful location for us. It's very convenient. It's an easy landmark for people to find. The majority of our rent there is paid through our core funding, but we would take 25% of that, and that would be $4,100. And then
If I can slow you
advertising.
down a second there. 25%, so who picks up the other 75?
So the rest of our funding comes from what we call core funding, and that is Resolution Washington. They lobby every 2 years to receive funding from the governor's budget. And I think Janice, you can talk a little bit more about how this has grown over the last few years and where this money is coming from.
So the funding comes directly from the state, and we have gradually built our funding up so that we can serve more people and meet the needs of the RCW 707. And that is, we get a chunk of money. It's, you know, after we figure out a few additional costs, like we have a director now for Resolution Washington and a couple other people that work for Resolution Washington. And after we take out the funding for them to keep them on staff, then the money is it used to be divided equally, but now we're looking at a different way of dividing it because some of the counties are smaller and don't need it, and some of us are bigger and need it. So so we get the funding from the state. It was approved. It's been approved, but it hasn't been signed by the governor. So I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to jinx it. But they would pay the, okay. In Cowlitz County, since we got the contract for mediation for parenting plan, court requires it. We would use a portion of that money. We would also use a portion of the core funding, and then 25% would go for the rent for the landlord tenant. Landlord tenant program, housing stability program. And so it would be divided out amongst the 3 so that we would be able to cover the rent and everything. So, and then we have the advertising of, we figure we're going to need to be advertising to let people know that we're doing this for the county. And so we're looking at 500 monthly for advertising, and that brought the total to 63,420.
So the initial funding that comes from the state that's in the budget is for Resolution Washington.
Well, it's for the DRCs, but Resolution Washington is who we're under that association. And so Resolution Washington receives the funding, and then we take that, and like I say, we divide it out according, and I have a feeling they're going to be dividing it out by population.
Yeah.
But they'll do a base. And last year I can say that the base for each county or for each center, the 21 centers, I believe it was 80,000 was the base. And then from there, whatever was divided out, we ended up with.
Okay,
And so it does pay substantial portion of Lewis and Cowlitz counties funds.
so Resolution Washington was set up to satisfy an RCW, you said,
Mhm.
and was it set up for, you talked about custody issues, so was that the original intent? And
It
we've
was-
just added this rent thing in the last couple of years?
No, the rent that's just to keep us roofed down.
No,
there.
but this landlord negotiation piece,
It just has been the last couple of years.
last couple of years, is it part of the original mandate or is it just something we've added?
We're not gonna do the original mandate. We're gonna set it up to where it's more like how we handle parenting plans and call the clients and make attempts. You know, try to reach them, and if we can reach them, we can offer them the services. I think that it's gonna come more from I don't like this expression. I don't know how else to use it though. A lot of the landlords are people that are retired and trying to keep going.
Yeah.
And so this would be, I would see more that type of people using it instead of, a lot of the bigger property managers may not use it.
Yeah.
But my hope is they do.
I'm just, I'm trying to get to is understand it was originally set up, these funds were in the budget for family disputes, trying
And
to settle those things before they run through the courts.
Okay,
And then in the last couple of years, this came up. So is this like a separate?
that was separate.
Okay.
Okay,
And
so
it was funded by those other funds, not out of the budget.
no,
Okay.
we
so-
had separate funding to handle all the eviction stuff.
Okay, so the
So that
the
funding,
government's budget funds cover all of your original purpose. We're looking at this added step. Okay,
yes.
that's what I was trying to make sure I understood.
So that includes trainings, making the community more aware of our center and what we do. We do, you know, we do all sorts of mediations. We do facilitations for people in offices that don't get along. You know, so we do all sorts of different types of mediation, businesses and, landlord tenant, you know, we're seeing as more landlord tenants calling us for other issues besides just not paying rent. And so we've been getting more traffic through our office because of the eviction program. So I perceive to see we'll be busy. We'll be busy.
And what's the benefit for the tenant? Reduce cost or improve compliance?
It would be, we would, for the landlord tenant that is on past due rent, we would offer that for free or low cost, depending on where they're at.
So a tenant would agree to, or a landlord would agree to do that with a tenant because they don't have to incur
Court costs.
court costs and all that kind of.
Yeah, and the court costs, I don't know how much court costs are really, because we were talking to one of the judges and I think he said a while back, it was 250 per, isn't that what he said? 250 per case. And so that in itself is quite a bit of money. And then you figure that's just for that part of it. If they have to get attorneys, I don't know. I've heard that that's outrageous in price. So we're kind of a stop off between, getting evicted and going to court and having to have an attorney. We're the middle person and we kind of get the people together to talk. Because a lot of these people, a lot of people just go quiet. And if they know that this is available to where they can actually sit down and have a conversation in a safe environment, they're more willing to do it. And we've been seeing that.
And the success rate, 3 out of 4, 3 out of 5, 5 out of 10.
The success rate that we've seen is when we have folks sit down and when we actively communicate with them. So we're not talking about folks that we can't get a hold of. We have a success rate, and I think it's in here about 76% of reaching a resolution. That could be a planned move out plan in case, you know, they want to move anyway. That still avoids an eviction and it helps give them the time and the mental space to move out. It also includes a repayment plan amount. Sometimes it's a move out and a repayment plan if they owe and would like to move somewhere else. But the benefit to tenant is they avoid an eviction on their record. That is a huge part of what we're trying to do. It also increases the communication between these two parties. And I can tell you that over the last few years, we've worked hard to develop some relationships with the landlords in the area. And part of the reason why I feel this is going to be a success is they have seen us put in the work over these last couple of years, and we would like to continue that and offer it for free to them and let them know that we're not just here because we're getting, you know, our bills paid by the state. We believe in the program and we have seen it be very, very successful. And I feel like it would be doing a disservice to the county to just pull a rug out from under it all at once because we feel that the need will continue.
Other questions? I don't want to hog them all.
Yeah, I have so many questions. I'm not sure if I have any left in the sense of, I don't know where to begin. The budget you show here is completely independent of the primordial stuff you do.
That's
right?
correct.
And so if we eliminate this, can I find your office and see an employee there or so?
Yes, you can.
Okay, thank you. And how do you interact with them? I'm thinking, for example, in your shoes, I would hope that I would get some pro bono help from some of the lawyers who are, in some sense, if you're a member of the bar, you're sort of obligated to provide pro bono. Not too many people do, but I think it's in the, might even be in the statutes someplace. Do you share resources like that between the two entities?
Are you talking about between Cowlitz County Legal Aid and our office?
No, between the original family mediation to now the mediation that you're trying to.
Yes, so I think I understand your question. This is not a separate or a standalone program. If you were to take away the Community Mediation Center as it is and try and apply this funding that we're asking for, you would not be able to support a program like this on its own. This is a offshoot. It is a branch of the Community Mediation Center. And because of the work that we've done in the past and the structure that we have built, we can build this on top of that. So it's a program or an extension of the Community Mediation Center. So all of the resources, all of the staff, all of the trained mediators that are available to the Community Mediation Center would be available through this program. It's not one or the other.
Thank you. I'd like to offer also that it's not just immediately the dollars, although I think they are substantive for us. If it goes to trial or it takes up our attorney's time and the judge's time. But it's also, we're in a polarized atmosphere out there, and the ability to speak to each other seems like it's gone away. A third party is why a lot of people go see their analyst. I don't, but maybe I should. And so I'm also, and I'm assuming that you find that that is a true statement. People just don't know how to talk to each other. They get upset about something and the priority item is swamped with a bunch of bunch of ill will or garbage.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I don't know of any other program that actually tries to tackle it from that standpoint. Do you?
Hmm.
No, I know that there are some, I would say some clandestine efforts. I know that a lot of churches can offer this kind of service. I think that the biggest benefit that we have is what you said, is that we're a neutral third party. We love it when there's success, but our paycheck is not based on whether there's success or failure. I mean, we are there to offer our services regardless of the outcome. And
I'll challenge you a little on that one. If you weren't producing any decent outcome, you probably wouldn't get the funding. Or like in this case, it's a follow-up to what we did fund last year, right?
correct. I should have rephrased that. We don't work on a commission base. So our services will be provided regardless of our exact success rate. However, we always want to be improving and making that better. So we do listen to the public and what they need, and coming together with a non-adversarial person to help that conversation flow has been very successful for us. So even if you do have legal representation, they're doing their job. They're there to represent a client, and we're there to represent the process.
And if I recall correctly, in Lewis County, the judges can mandate that they go to your mediation. Is that the case here?
Now, yeah, in Cowlitz County, yes.
Okay, that was,
There is a mandate that they come to, it's required to go through mediation before you can, if you can't make an agreement, you're required to come to us.
is that by RCW or by our judges?
It's by the judges, I believe.
It's the local court rule 93.
Yeah.
It was just put into effect in January 1st of this year. So when there is a contested parenting plan that goes to court, the new local court rule is that the judge will refer that to mediation, and they can go to any mediation center. They don't have to come to us, but we do provide the exact services that are needed to help folks figure out a parenting plan on their own. If they can't, they may continue to go to court, but we do find that, again, a high success rate when people sit down and are able to communicate without animosity.
On a much more mundane question, advertising, how do you plan to advertise?
The need for that, one of the shortfalls that we found in the ERP program over the last couple of years is that people didn't know about it, whether it was landlords, whether it was tenants. We still have had people come to us in the last couple of months and say, what is ERP? We don't know about it. And these are people that own properties and have renters. So that was a big shortfall, and we want to make sure that we are putting our services out there. Mediation is a difficult concept for some people to grasp unless you have had, firsthand involvement with it. So we found good success. We have used local radio stations in both counties, and we've used local newspaper, and we have done some specific promotions where we want to make sure that we are going to resource fairs. We're getting out there. We're partnering with other organizations that serve a similar clientele. So that's, printing flyers, that's updating websites. It's kind of a shotgun approach. There isn't one silver bullet to advertising, but we do know that there's a need for people to know what our services are. And so I would say that radio and newsprint are probably our biggest successes that we've seen over the last 2 years.
Thank you.
I think you've already been doing some radio advertising, haven't you? I mean, I've heard the ad.
Yes.
Today, I recognize that name. Commissioner Mortensen was spot on when he talked about, from our perspective, we need the data that shows lives changed, basically. And I know your documentation identifies a 76% success rate, and that's great. If we end up funding you with document recording fees for eviction prevention, we would certainly want regular reports on how many folks you were able to get a resolution with, just to make sure that we're covering the expenses for that purpose.
Absolutely. And if you look at, this has been addressed briefly in the landlord tenant eviction pre-filing services proposal that's included in your packet. On the third and last page, there's something that says measurement of services. This is definitely something that we want to address. So It says that the Community Mediation Center will voluntarily collect basic demographic information from each client receiving services and make those non-identified statistics available for monthly review. This is something that we're currently doing and we will continue to do it. In addition, other metrics will be recorded for the duration of the program, such as individual length of engagement and services, the type of services provided, the outcome of the services received, the type of referrals made to clients. So if we are unable to resolve their conflict or they need services outside of what we can provide, who do we refer them to? So we are open to suggestions. If there are specific metrics that you would like to see, we will certainly do our best to gather those.
I think you're gonna have the easiest job of them all because some of the other metrics are very long-term. And here you essentially, if you can keep someone from being thrown out in the street for 6 months or 12 months, that's probably okay. You don't control them beyond that. So it's like you met the milestone. So while 76% seems outrageously high, I think it's totally believable. It's a little bit skewed because people will come to you thinking that there might be a resolution there, and those would not, I mean, they don't come to you.
Yeah.
And
What's our next step then? Do we need to, we don't have to go out for bids on something like this, do we, or do we?
no, I don't think so. Just a grant request.
Okay.
And actually, I think it's that simple. But I'm also wondering, you probably know, if I were in their shoes, I would like to have a pot of funds or a fund where it's really a, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not coming to me, but it's a fund that you draw into and refill with being repaid back.
Yeah,
And
I think probably the next step would be to perhaps, if we're in agreement, direct Gina to work out a contract with them.
Oh, yeah,
to give them
good.
that. And that would include those kind of details, whether there's an impressed fund or a cash.
Right, but I'm suggesting that just for now, there isn't enough in here for an impress fund.
It would,
And,
whatever that works, yeah.
and then if we do have an impress fund, does that conflict with CAP? You know, CAP had a lot of, handled all of our rental stuff. Would a piece of that, should a piece of that have gone, had we been more advanced in this stage, gone to give them some operating float? That's the word I was looking for.
Afloat.
Yeah.
Oh, to see if there's any that CAP has left over.
So perhaps they come to a point where people that far apart, now they're that far apart, and they both, the mediation center says, I can see where neither one can give. How about if we fund for the next 6 months, $50 a month, just to close that gap? And I'm talking about that kind of number, and not to replace a full
Right.
rent subsidy. Thing I like about that, it's clearly people that are on both sides are saying, I can give, but sometimes there's just a limit. I don't know if I'm making any sense. I would ask.
Are you talking about the potential of a repayment plan that a
Right.
tenant would be setting up with their landlord? And let's say the landlord wants to see $200 a month, but they can only afford
Something like that.
something like, okay.
And that's fraught with all kinds of problems because I've lent a lot of people a few dollars here and there, and I've never gotten it back. Gladly pay you Tuesday.
I think that I love the intent there, and I think that small amounts of capital can be very helpful. It really spreads the wealth out to a lot of people. One thing that I will say, just off the cuff, is that one of the significant barriers that we have seen of tenants being stuck in their homes is the inability to gather that money to move. the first and last month's rent, so the deposit on a new place. So we're not talking about people needing $15,000 or $30,000 to get caught up. We're talking about folks who are very close to being caught up. Maybe they're a month behind on rent, 2 months behind on rent, but they realize that the place they're living may be unattainable for them to stay living, and they really want to move, but saving a few $1,000s is a huge barrier. So something like that, a fund that could help people with moving costs, I think could be very helpful. And I think just in the conversations that we've had over the last 2 years, I would say that that might be a place to start looking.
I think I go back to what you were saying, and now we just tell Jana to go ahead, work on this, and that other one is a topic for
Right,
more
right.
discussion.
So the next question goes to Gina, if you're listening. If you've heard what we've been talking about. Hi.
Hello, yes, I have been listening in. So, and if I understand right, I was on the phone for a little bit of it, but it sounds like there's some interest in how we move forward with a partnership or an agreement with the Mediation Center. I know we've talked a little bit about the option of using some of the consolidated homeless grant funds that
Yeah.
we're just submitting that grant application this week. And we can certainly explore what other options we might have to try to get something going ahead of that. I know that particular funding doesn't start until July 1. So we could certainly explore some options for how to do that.
And then, do you know if CAP still has some of that rental assistance money left over that might be a possible bridge grant to tenants that are just a little bit short?
I know we spent out the rent category. I'll have to double check and see. There's a possibility we might have some operations or admin left, so I can check on that piece. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll have, and I know you've been working with them a little bit anyway, so we'll work that. What I would ask when Gina brings this back, if you're available to attend in a public meeting, because we get people with a lot of questions and we always depend on Gina to have every answer, but that's not possible. So sometimes it's helpful when they're to answer some of those.
She comes close.
She does a darn good job, but you just can't have everything.
Absolutely, yes. So we'll be in contact with Gina for what the next steps are. Is that correct?
So just to summarize, because you may not be totally familiar, I'm not sure I am too. So the board has agreed to support this, and Gina is going to work out details, and possibly they'll change on the upside. They wouldn't change on the downside.
Correct.
Right?
Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
One quick ask on miscellaneous before I know Mike has a exec session. I don't.
No.
I just need to beg your forgiveness for being a little bit late.
Oh.
I have Rotary meetings on Wednesdays, and the guest speaker just happened to be Chris Swanson, and she gave an excellent talk. Did not bash the county. It was very positive, and she mentioned how the police chief.
Well,
and
I'll
the
have to
sheriff-
see the tape.
And she did mention the collaboration between the sheriff and the police chiefs on coming up with the statute to replace the Blake mistake that the
Yeah.
legislature made. And
That'll be interesting. We heard,
it's one of those that may require an emergency measure, because normally there's a lag time between adoption
Yeah.
and when something goes into effect. And July 1st is when the law expires. And then there's no penalty for possession. So
we certainly heard a lot of interest in that yesterday.
Wait, it's, you're speaking about, there are two things. If nothing happens between now and the end of July,
into June, the fiscal year is when they.
I heard July, but anyhow, okay, June, then we, the board, can do something. And we're going to do that under advisement by the sheriff's office and prosecuting attorney's
Prosecuting
office
attorney.
and so forth.
The goal is to make sure that those who break the law don't play the game of jumping from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. The penalty should be the same, or the processing should be the same.
It's actually a pretty complicated thing. So yeah, we cannot act alone without realizing what Wahkiakum is doing, what Lewis is doing, because we will impact each other.
Yeah,
And you're right, the jumping the jurisdiction.
but
But
wait,
that, okay, go ahead.
I was just gonna be funny. I was gonna say, you tell Rotary I'm sending them a fine.
Okay.
And so, yeah, were you suggesting that there will not be, or there will be a fix coming out of Olympia? Best guess is.
That would require a
Yep.
a special session. I have not read anywhere where they're talking about a special session, but it's all happened so quickly. I mean,
Except
Signee died last
yeah.
weekend, so.
Jeff Wilson mentioned he wouldn't be surprised if he did call a session, a special
maybe.
session.
Of course,
Story behind the bill was interesting.
that assumes the legislature does something that is okay with us.
That's the next one.
That
Yeah,
doesn't
and
necessarily ring true very often,
The
recently anyway.
fix apparently was going to go through, and at the last hours, it became an unsavory contest of seeing who's the big man on campus.
Yeah. Anything? Good. Mike, what I understand is we have executive session contract negotiations about 15 minutes. Okay, let's do that. And thank you guys for coming. We look
Thanks.
forward to seeing you again.
The board is extending the executive session for a period of 5 minutes until 2:34.
Okay, we've returned from an executive session. No decisions were made. I'll give one last call for miscellaneous public comment. No? I don't see any hands. I would adjourn this for today. Thank you.